Hello everybody, this is Kurt and welcome to the channel. Today's episode we're going to be looking at the T-34 and its interesting contributions to tank design and warfare in general. The T-34 was a Soviet medium tank which had a profound and lasting effect on the field of tank design. Although its armor and armaments were surpassed late in the war, it has been often credited as the most effective, efficient, and influential tank design of World War II. At its introduction, the T-34 possessed an unprecedented combination of firepower, mobility, protection, and ruggedness. Its 76mm cannon provided a substantial increase in firepower over any of the T-34's contemporaries. Its heavily sloped armor was very difficult for most contemporary anti-tank weapons. First encountered by the Germans in 1941, the German tank general Kleist called it the finest tank in the world, and commented that it was very worrying. The T-34 was the mainstay of the Soviet armored forces throughout World War II. The design and construction of the tank were constantly refined during the war to enhance its effectiveness and decrease the cost, allowing for steadily great numbers of T-34s to be fielded despite the heavy losses. It was the most produced tank of the entire war, and only the second most produced tank of all time. In 1996, the T-34 variants were still in service in at least 27 other countries. Soviet military leaders saw Soviet aggression and thought it was a good idea to build a tank that might be able to protect themselves. Before, the T-26 was the tank of service for the Soviets. Now it was a really slow tank, and it was meant to walk right next to the infantry, giving them support. But war had been completely changed by the Germans, and speed was the name of the game now. Now let's talk about the armor. The USSR donated 2 combat-used T-34s to the United States for testing purposes late in 1942. The examinations revealed problems with the overall armor build quality, especially with plate joints and the welds, as well as the use of softer steel. These problems were leading to many weak points in the armor, allowing for stray bullets to enter the cabin. Leak issues were also noted as well. In a heavy rain, lots of water flows through the chinks and cracks, which leads to the disabling of the electrical equipment and even ammunition. The soft turret armor often provided poor resistance even to a 37mm anti-aircraft shell. The T-34 was often equipped with an F-34 76mm cannon. It was able to penetrate any early German tank's armor at normal ranges. When firing armor-piercing ballistic-capped shells, it could pierce 92mm of armor at 500 meters. The best German tanks of 1941, the Panzer III and Panzer IV, had no more than 50 or 60mm of frontal armor. Let's talk about the T-34's operational history. Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, its invasion of the Soviet Union, on the 22nd of June 1941. The existence of the T-34 provided a physiological shock to the German soldiers who had expected to face an inferior enemy. For the most part, these expectations were accurate, but the T-34 was the notable exception, superior to any German tank they had in service. In one of the first known encounters against the T-34, it crushed a 37mm, destroyed 2 Panzer IIs, and left 14 kilometers of destruction in its wake before a howitzer destroyed it in close range. The Germans were forced to deploy 105mm field guns and 88mm flak guns and a direct fire roll to stop the T-34s from advancing. Despite this success, the Soviet corps equipped with these new tanks lost most of them within a few weeks. The combat statistics for 1941 show the Soviets lost an average of 7 tanks to every German tank. The Soviets lost 20,500 tanks in 1941, approximately 2,300 of those T-34s. The annihilation of the Soviet tank force was accompanied not only by glaring discrepancies in tactical and strategic skills of the opponent, but also by mechanical failures which infected the Soviet tanks at the time. Besides the poor state of the older tanks, the new T-34s suffered from teething problems, mostly with regards to clutch